Yeah, come on. Right there. Let's go.
He started with more than 460 of the best players in the world. Parker Bone III, Mike Albee, Chris Barnes, Norm Duke, they're all gone. And one man stands alone. He's an amateur. His name is Brett Wolfe. He's a hometown favorite. And Brett, you got to feel real good about where you're at.
Absolutely. I bowled great all week. Looking forward to today's show. Don't see any reason why I couldn't bowl as good today as I have the rest of the tournament.
He's the #1 seed. The ABC Masters is next on ESPN.
Excellent crowd on hand for the 52nd ABC Masters Championship, one of bowling's majors. The 7th time the Masters has been in Reno. Now let's introduce you to our 4 finalists for today. In our first match, Steve Jaros, a 36-year-old right-hander with 3 PBA titles, takes on Dennis Horan Jr. Heran, twice a winner of the Touring Players Championship, looks to add an ABC Masters title. The winner of that match takes on Ricky Ward. Ward, the 1991 Rookie of the Year, was our winner last week at the Medford Open. And in our championship match, the man to beat, Brett Wolfe. Wolfe from Reno makes a rare occurrence as the amateur is a #1 seed in the tournament. And all 4 of these gentlemen had a very difficult road to get to today's finals. And Brian, you've bowled in this tournament. Not only do you have a format that's conducive to a lot of games being bowled, but you also have the pressure of the double elimination.
Well, you know, once qualifying was over and you made it to match play, you were bowling game after game, especially in the loser's bracket.
Yeah, you know what, Brian? Let me give you guys a couple of quick stats here. Yesterday, Steve Jaros bowled for 12 hours, and Dennis Horan Jr. bowled 9 matches, totaling 27 games in one day, knowing at any point if he lost, Brian, he was gone.
That's amazing. That's a lot of bowling.
You know, we left about 11 o'clock last night, and there were guys just finishing up last night. Very difficult. Let's get our first match underway. Dennis Horan Jr. versus Steve Jaros. Steve, the 36-year-old out of Bolingbrook, Illinois, the only right-hander in the field.
Steve, you know, one of the established players on tour. He's won multiple titles.
Randy, one of the things Steve said that he feels as a right-hander he has a huge advantage. He thinks he bowls a lot better when the lanes are fresher, and he didn't practice a whole lot during the warm-up time on purpose.
Well, I think it's still all relative to the lane conditions and the type of shot or ball reaction that he has today. You know, yesterday was yesterday.
Trying to clean up the 6. Steve with a new spare ball. He blew out his other spare ball late last night. Had to drill a new ball earlier today. Well, the prize money, this is the largest purse in the history of the ABC Masters with the largest first place check of $100,000. Brett Wolfe, no matter what he does, though, gang, he goes home with $50,000.
Ooh, he slept real good last night.
That's what he said he did.
Not a bad way to wake up knowing you're going to make at least 50.
Dennis Horan, who is bowling so consistently throughout the entire week, had a 300 game versus Danny Wiseman yesterday that really put him in position to make it to the TV finals.
You know, Dennis was on a show a couple of weeks ago in Seattle, and he's no stranger to high scores. He's, you know, when he gets it going, he's really one of the better strikers out here. I think Dennis's strength is his finish.
Mm-hmm.
He posts up real good. He's always on balance.
Oh, my.
Nice break. You know, one of the interesting things about Dennis is most of the players on tour, Brian, either spot at the arrows, maybe a little bit past the arrows. Some guys target short of the arrows. Dennis actually looks about 10 feet in front of the pins. And the reason why he does that, he told me that, you know, he has a tendency to cut shots off, cut them short. And that helps him to extend through the ball, extend through the shot.
All right, come on.
I just find that real fascinating. He can look that far down the lane.
Well, when guys keep their target way up by their break point, they don't have to think about where it is at the arrows. They just remember where their feet is. It's easy.
Well, let's take a look and see how Steve Jaros got here. He lost to Sand and Horan Jr., losing to Heran in the final match yesterday, which put Dennis as the #3 seed, and Horan Jr., or Dennis is the #3 seed. Steve is the #4 seed.
See one of our lady finalists up there.
Yeah, Well, Steve cleans things up rather handily. Steve has a couple of children, Evan and Hannah, 2.5-year-old twins. His wife, June, back in Bolingbrook, Illinois, watching on the television set.
Interesting note, spoke to Steve Jaros' ball rep earlier, Chad Murphy. He told me that the left lane hooked about an arrow more. That's 5 boards more than the right lane. First ball in the left lane, Brian, went high.
Yep.
We are even after 2.
You know, a little different than Dennis. You'll see when Steve finishes, it kind of looks like he's off balance, but you'll watch his follow-through. Dead straight up to the sky. When he really gets out of a good Randy, that right hand almost touches the back of his right shoulder blade.
You know, he said that he'd been working on trying to cut that follow-through down because it makes him grab or hit up on it, Brian. Said he worked with John Jowdy earlier this week, and John had him going much smoother, much softer through it to create length down the lane, because this week he played the lanes real straight.
Should be no problem with the spare.
Not a problem for Steve Jaros Jr. Steve Jaros, now Dennis Horan Jr. will take over. Dennis, joined by his parents, Dennis and Clara, who are in the stands, made the 4-hour trip from San Jose. And here's his road to the Masters, losing to the Finn, Lettinen, early on, and also losing to Ricky Ward in the final match, which ended late last night. Very late last night.
Dennis bowled a few games yesterday.
Well, he's not feeling it right now, guys.
He zeroed in.
Well, you know, coming off of a show 2 weeks ago, that's got to carry over. I know when Randy, when you've made a show the very next week, you lose. You can't lose.
You feel good. 11 TV appearances. You know, he's had pretty good success on TV too, by the way. It's he actually won the first ever televised arena finals, Brian, in Erie, Pennsylvania in 1994. I'm sorry to bring that up because he did beat you, but
And he bowled real good.
Yeah, he did.
He shot 279.
Come on, ball! Yes!
For 2 in a row, and he's got it.
Dennis not one to hold in the emotion.
Well, Dennis Horan Jr. right now up by 10 pins. He's completed 4 frames. We'll be back to the ABC Masters in Reno, Nevada right after this. By Dexter, the #1 bowling shoe in the world. And by the American Bowling Congress, providing championship service to America's bowlers since 1895. Make sure your league is ABC sanctioned. 3 previous Masters in Reno, all 3 won by lefties. Will Steve Jaros break that string? Right now he trails by 10. Now let's take a look at some of the lane conditions with Randy.
here's the lane condition the players competed on this week. The oil is applied very flat, which means simply it's even side to side. The bumps and undulation that you see is basically the topography of the lane, which is telling you how smooth or how rough the surface is. The left-handers played in between the second and third arrow, a little arc out to about the first arrow. Our lone righty piped it straight up the outside part of the lane, right around the first arrow. That's the way the players will attack the lane conditions today.
Well, you know, Brian, when you look at the lane conditions, one of the things we noticed is that Dennis Horan actually used a plastic ball in practice because of these lane conditions. Why?
Well, good players are always looking for an edge. You know, what can I do? You know, play the lanes this way, this ball. If you use a plastic ball, you can actually carry the oil down the lane and allow you to create a little margin of error.
Ooh. Well, Steve has left them a lot. You know, we're seeing the pins fly around a lot today. They're using twister pins, and the players have all said that they seem to get a little more elevation once they hit, once the ball hits. Do you think there's any difference, guys?
Well, the pros call them popcorn pins. These things just fly around. Sometimes you get some weird splits. Sometimes you should strike and you get 9, just like we saw there. But there's some really different kind of pin reactions, and I think the folks back home will see that today.
Yeah, and here's the reason why. These twister pins are made out of 100% plastic. The pins that we use on tour, Brian, they use 95% wood and about a 5% plastic covering.
Well, footwork is so important on this synthetic lanes. Now let's step aside and take a look at the Dexter footwork of the pros.
All right, let's go here. Here was my Dexter solution for this week. I started with the number 8 slide sole. Now I combine that with the number 5 horseshoe heel. This week I felt the approaches were just a little bit on a slick side. This combination helps me control my slide. It's my favorite combination for when the approaches get this way. In fact, this is a combination that I used when I made the show earlier in New Jersey.
Well, Steve Jaros, while we were away, he gets 5, leaves 5 standing, and he seems to be struggling. And one of the things that happened on that last shot, Randy, is that he looked at his footwork immediately. Was he sliding enough? Here's what happened.
Well, the problem is this ball is going straight through the face. He leaves what we call the Greek church or grandma's teeth. You know, if he's having a problem sliding, he needs to adjust his footwork. But he had plenty of time to do that in practice, or I'm sorry, adjust the soles on his shoes. But, you know, I think the ticket right here is just like we talked about in the opening. The left lane hooks more. Steve has to make the proper adjustment on the left lane.
Yeah. An arrow more, not a board or two.
Now you see the score right now, and Steve Jaros leaving the 5th open.
Golden.
Yes.
And Dennis Horan does. Well, you were talking about Steve Jaros making some adjustments with coaching guys. Dennis Horan also made some adjustments before Seattle, and he's getting good results. We can see the great pin reaction there. But he really wants to try not to push the ball away so much.
Well, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Guys are always fidgeting. You know, you can take a guy 5 years ago that's a great player, and 5 years later, he's a little bit different. He's aged, his weight's different, he knows more about the game. So we're always fidgeting, always fine-tuning until we get something that feels absolutely perfect.
38-pin lead, yes. He is on a roll. Had a spare in the second since the 3rd strikes, 4 straight. Ups his lead to 48 pins.
Just told Terry and Courtney back home, gave his love to them. And, you know, Dennis took great advantage of that big open frame by Steve. Working on a 4-bagger. He's got a 48-pin lead. It's only the 6th frame, but Steve needs to start striking.
Got to get it going.
Yes. Yes.
All right, we got a little break there. I see a little light at the end of the tunnel.
No style points in bowling, guys.
You know, it's kind of funny watching some of us pros on these pins and all the reactions they have. There's some great reactions.
Yeah.
Good ones, bad ones.
I was kidding Dennis Horan before on his 300 game. I said, you know, you were begging there for a while. He said, you know, there's always, when you bowl the 300, you have 3 or 4 shots that just don't look like they're going to do it.
Oh, yeah. Got to strike on this left lane.
See what kind of adjustment he makes.
He's in a hurry. And it does.
That's better.
Steve Jaros using a little more banana on that ball. He strikes in the 7th, and he cuts the lead down to 38. We'll step aside and be back to Reno, Nevada, right here on ESPN.
Play shots.
Our information brought to you by the CATS, the computer-aided tracking system provided by the Kegel Training Center in Sebring, Florida. A first-class, top-notch facility, nothing like it anywhere in the world. John Davis, Richard Shockley, they bring us valuable information.
Every week. There you can see Dennis's parents just over our right shoulder, his left. That is his mom, Clara.
Wow. Dennis,
great.
Dennis is getting all the breaks right now.
Yeah.
He pulled out of that shot immediately, Brian. He knew that he didn't throw it well, and that should have been a 3.79.
Well, these synthetic pins, they fly around, right? You know, we call them popcorn pins for a reason.
They get more elevation. And his reaction.
Please, please, break it up.
Told you he's begging again, guys.
They just simply react different to the pressure.
Oh, no. Oh,
Wow, he gets the great break, and then he...
no. Is that a concentration problem, or is that just a bad throw?
Well, ordinarily, he would look down at his foot, and if he stuck, but that's not what he did. I don't know what happened.
I think it's just the lack of concentration, to be honest. Got the great break, tripping the split out, and then just gets up and whiffs it.
Well, he still has the lead, up by 25.
I know Steve Jaros loved to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting there watching that.
In a major, you can't open the door just a crack.
And again, he follows it up with a shot that goes through the face, but he's been light on that lane a couple of shots.
Commercial there.
You know, Steve Jaros can strike out to shoot 232. Dennis Horan is going at a 217 pace.
It's anybody's game right now.
This is what makes the Masters so great. Despite the fact they've bowled a lot of games, it's coming down to this.
Wow.
Allie able to pick it up tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern. See a special primetime edition of Pardon the Interruption, a live and provocative show devoted exclusively to sports opinions and headline issues, featuring Washington Post columnist Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon. PTI addresses a variety of issues with new ideas and new perspectives, part of the block on ESPN. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. The door is open.
Oh.
Not taking advantage of it.
Well, it was a good shot. You know, he's not getting the breaks that Dennis Horan's getting. He could have tripped that 4 out. Ball just a little bit high, but, you know, a break, a trip 4, Brian, we've all experienced that every now and then.
Well, it goes to show you, in the 5th frame, Steve was 47 pins down. And with an open by Dennis, if he could have struck 2 times there, he'd only be 6 pins down. But he's still in the match.
He's going to pick this up, and he does.
Going over to the left lane now, we've talked about the fact that the left lane hooks more for Steve Jaros. 2 ways to combat that. The best way, I think, especially because of the line he's playing, is you simply throw the ball faster.
Yeah.
You throw the ball faster, it reduces hook, you're reducing friction.
But you look at the pins he's left. I mean, he's left everything from the 6 to the 6 and 7. There's no consistency. He's kind of been all over the lanes, it seems like, when you look at what he's left standing.
Particularly the left.
Oh,
my goodness.
Have we seen that before, Randy?
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen that a few times. And unfortunately for Steve Jaros, he's seen it twice in this one game.
Obviously a little bit disgusted. We're going to watch. Oh, not again, he says. Come on, that was perfect.
Well, because he knows that the door was open for him.
It's like getting kicked in the gut. And you talk about him being all over the map, Ron. The reason for that is simply his ball reaction is just not that good. I mean, he really has to make really, really good shots. That left lane may have broken down prior to starting this match. There's a lot of things that factor in.
Well, the bottom line is Steve Jaros is on pace for 200 if he strikes out. Heran at 237. Heran has the 27-pin advantage.
Dennis knows if he throws a strike here, he's locked up, and he didn't. He got away with a bad shot.
Through the face again. All Dennis has to do is fill frames. A mark in the 9th, a mark in the 10th frame. He's going to move on.
Spare and 8 pins on the first ball in the 10th frame, and he's a winner. Should be no problem, but he missed a spare last time on this lane. You never know.
And he picks it up. So Dennis Horan is in position now to lock this up and move in to the 2nd round.
Now, a lot of guys in this position, they'll look at the score, and they'll say to themselves, what's the worst? How could I possibly lose? If I get 5 or 6, I could still lose this. So I need 8 pins to shut him out. How am I going to do it? I'll probably go with just a little bit more speed, just try and throw the ball almost at the pocket, but make sure you get more than 6.
And it's over. Dennis Horan Jr. has advanced to the 2nd round. Steve Jaros will have to settle for the 4th place prize check of $15,000.
Now, even though Dennis has won this match, he's still going to take these 2.
Right.
And he is going to make sure that he's lined up, get himself nice and loose. The lights are on, and he's won his first match. Now get on cruise control.
Because he has been making adjustments this whole week, he's telling us earlier today and last night. Especially after that 155 against Danny Wiseman.
Oh, what a marvelous comeback there.
Boy, I'm telling you. He said, I just started talking to myself, and I knew I had to make the adjustments. And that is what he has done in this match. Thanks to the 4-bagger from the 3 through 6 frames, that's what really opened the door for him. And he was able to avoid the bad mistakes. He's had some, but he's compensated for them.
Well, in this game, if you don't know how to talk to yourself, you don't know how to talk to anybody, because you're always talking to yourself. Always.
Well, Dennis Horan is our winner in match number 1.
Down 2 to go. Going to bring this home to you.
Of course, he's talking to his wife, Terry, and Courtney back in Temecula, California. Not able to make the telecast today, but they're watching on the big screen. Well, Steve Jaros will clean things up. Great tournament for Steve. He bowled wonderfully all week. But unfortunately, the winner is Dennis Horan, and he advances to match number 2. We'll step aside. We come back. More from the 2002 ABC Masters live from Reno, Nevada.
Later, I wasn't late enough, meaning my swing and my foot were together when I was releasing the ball. And I was actually still sliding a little bit. Going to 4, what happens is the ball actually gets into the hole at the bottom of the swing later, meaning that my foot is stopped, and then the swing passes through and enables me to get my hand through the shot longer and around it more.
Changing from 5 to 4 steps produced immediate results in Danny's game. You know what they say, confidence breeds success, and he would quickly find the winner's circle at the Johnny Petraglia Open late in the first half of the season.
I think the results were so good because I was getting stagnant with 5 steps, even though I had been doing it for like 3 years, and I just didn't feel that you know, I was doing some things correct, watching the other players and the guys that were scoring well. I was missing something.
Whatever Danny was missing, he found it with the four-step approach, which is a good point to remember. Everybody's game is different, and if you feel like you're doing something wrong, hey, change it.
Well, Danny Wiseman was a victim of Dennis Horan Jr.'s 300 game, finished in 7th place in the tournament.
Yeah, the bottom line, the change that Danny made, what that did for him was it gave him more power. It created more power. It made his timing a little bit later, more revolutions, more hand, more striking power, Ron.
We have our second match on tap. Dennis Horan Jr. and Ricky Ward, a left-hander, will again win the Masters. We'll be back. And welcome back to the 78-lane National Bowling Stadium in Reno, Nevada. The first Masters held back in 1951 in St. Paul, Minnesota. Lee Joglard beat Joel Willman in that match. In our second match today here in 2002, Ward and Heran Jr. And Dennis will kick things off. One thing that was very obvious, gentlemen, during our little breakaway between match 1 and 2, Dennis Horan spent a great deal of time practicing. Didn't just get up there and just throw balls.
He went over to the other pair and practiced shooting spares. He can get to the pocket. You see the outside line? About the 12th board.
And now the Bulldog.
Maybe now we got to change his name to Rolex Ricky after last week.
6 PBA titles already in the back pocket for Ricky Ward.
I think his wife is going to change his nickname to ATM, because even if he loses today, he's going to bank about 65 grand plus for the last 2 weeks.
That'll work. I don't pay the mortgage. Wife Lisa, baby Hannah, just 7 months old, back in North Fort Myers, Florida.
I'm going to be Ricky's new best friend.
You know, both these guys are playing about the same zone, Randy. There's going to be some little moves that they're going to have to make, anticipating each other.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's great, anticipating when you should be.
Yes! Sit down.
How about that messenger, Brian? No, these pins don't fly anywhere, do they?
No.
That's a great example.
Watch that head pin just come flying across. He didn't know at this time whether it was going to hit it. He just nicks it.
Just the atomic messenger. Yeah, baby.
Very fiery.
He's thrown a few of those.
Tough as nails, that kid.
Come on, ball. Get it.
Dennis with 2 in a row, and they're matching each other shot for shot early on here in match number 2.
It's early on, and it's mano-y-mano.
One thing Dennis has always, we touched on it briefly in the first match, he's tried to keep the ball down low. He wants the ball to come off his hand more consistently. Let's take a look at it now and see what we're talking about, because that's something he has worked on the last couple of weeks.
The key here is it's all timing. It's all about timing. Getting the ball down low, all that does is set up his timing to be the same every shot, so that the ball is at the bottom of the swing the same way every time.
Nope.
Oh, you heard him immediately when he let go of it. He said, nope.
Yeah, he knew it.
That's what we're talking about, coming off the hand consistently.
Damn thing go.
You know, Randy, you'll probably agree. Every mistake out there usually comes from the start. You know, it's been the start that he's been working on, and you know, occasionally you tend to go back to the way you used to do it.
I agree.
Well, here's some of the other scores and where everybody finished. Danny Weissman, by the way, finished 8th, but some of the other scores. Check out your favorite player, Norm Duke, ending up 12th place.
You know, as you watch Ricky put his fingers on the ball, he uses some of the sharpest finger holes out here.
Brian, why is that, do you think?
Well, number one, you can't swing the ball.
Okay.
The ball just holds onto your hand. And, you know, there's not many players that really do that. I know Norm Duke does it. Husted does it a little bit. But Ricky, it's like there's no bevel whatsoever.
Just straight off the drill press.
Just no, you can't squeeze the ball.
But you talk about versatile players. Isn't Ricky Ward in that group?
Ricky can do a lot of things. He's, you know, he's
very adaptable.
Very adaptable. But he's a good clutch player.
Yeah, you know,
saw last week.
He's got a lot of maple moxie.
There you go, Randy.
This guy's not afraid of anybody. And you know what? When it comes down to making a shot when you have to, he can do it. He gets it done.
Well, we got to say, though, that earlier this morning, we saw him about 7:30 this morning, and Dennis Horan was also here last night along with Ricky Ward. But I saw Ricky this morning, just 30 minutes past the hour. He said, you know, I got a muscle spasm in my back. I said, did you sleep wrong? He goes, no, I was just kind of standing here. And he was very concerned about it about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago.
Yeah, and then he went outside and he got a stick and he chewed on it and he said, you know what, let's get after it.
It's the Masters. Not time to worry about backspin.
Here it comes again.
Oh.
This time in front, he was looking for a little low.
Oh, the 7 is afraid of plastic.
A little long.
A little long.
But he still has a 16-pin advantage. He is in his 4th frame. Once again, these players started at 9:30 in the morning Pacific time. They were here about 7:30 this morning after a very late night last night.
That's better.
I agree, Ricky. It was better. We're going to step aside right now. Ricky Ward, Dennis Horan Jr. locked in match number 2. Ricky Ward with a 16-pin advantage. Take home the brass ring. Leading the tournament in 1983, Pete would come up short in the title match and lose to little-known Baltimore school teacher named Mike Lastowski. Then 2 years later in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Pete would make it into the championship round again, only to fall short to Tommy Kress, 215 to 212 in the second match, finishing a disappointing 4th. In 2000, Weber would find himself leading the tournament in Albuquerque, but once again would lose in the title match. This time to Finland's Mika Koivuniemi by only 1 pin, 236 to 235. Despite never winning the Masters, Pete will deservingly be inducted into the ABC Hall of Fame later this year. And Pete Weber joins us now. Pete, I think the purple outfit and the hair, I had the same outfit, and I wore my hair the same way back then.
I think that was just the style going around back then.
That was the style.
Now, Pete, congratulations. You're going to be inducted into the ABC Hall of Fame later on this year. That has to be an award that you'll cherish dearly.
Well, it is because it's the second Hall of Fame I get to join my father in. So I still have one more to go. I need that St. Louis Hall of Fame, but that's all right. It's a great honor for the ABC to be inducted into that one.
Well, Pete's going to join us for a couple of frames as we continue our bowling. Right now, Dennis Horan Jr. and Ricky Ward teeing it up. You can see the score so far. Right now, Ricky Ward with a slight advantage. Dennis down by 16, working on that open frame in the 3rd.
Pete, just how grueling is this competition?
Well, if you stay in the winner's bracket, it's not so bad. But when you get in that loser's bracket early, I mean, you're going to bowl forever. And that's a lot of wear and tear on your hand and a lot of wear and tear on your body. So you got to be in good condition to bowl this tournament.
Pete, you are mentally tough when you bowl in these big events like this. What is Dennis Horan facing right now? He had the 3rd open. He's facing a possible open here in the 4th. Overcoming that mentally, not so much physically, is that more difficult?
Well, I think the commercial breaks take a little bit off your physical game because you're sitting there and your hand's swelling. So it's kind of tough to come back and throw a good shot because your hand's just a little bit swelled.
Now, Ricky Ward, he's had a little more head belly here, hasn't he, Randy? A little more swing?
Yeah, he's arcing it a little bit more. He's going a little bit more left, right to left with his direction than Dennis Horan is. Dennis is going a little bit straighter. And that just has to do with the equipment and the amount of revolutions in hand that Ricky Ward is using.
Well, Dennis really has got to get the wheels put back on here.
Well, it's only a 16-pin match right now. Dennis only trailing by 16. You know, with a couple of strikes, he can trim that to 6. Wow.
Wow.
Petey, how many times have you got up there and thrown a shot, and as soon as it leaves your hand, you just turn around and walk back?
Several, Randy. It's not an uncommon thing.
Well, several for me.
He is not pleased with his release.
Watch this reaction. He's like, oh, God. That is left, or excuse me, that is right immediately out of his hand. He gets the great break going in Brooklyn. You know what, Pete? A lot of times it's not just how great you bowl, but how good the breaks are.
Yes, it is, Randy. I mean, when you're out there and you're getting good breaks, your mental attitude gets a little more fired up. You're ready to go because you know you're getting the breaks. So, and Ricky's been the hot bowler the last week and a half, so he's looking awful good.
Your heart rate goes down. Your swing becomes a little more relaxed. It's just easier for you to get the ball off your hand.
Boy, when you get them butterflies out of your stomach after a few shots and get relaxed, it's a lot easier to bowl.
2 frames in a row. Ricky Ward leaves the 7. 2 frames in a row. He picks up the spare.
Not to jump the gun or anything, but Pete, I got to ask you. Our title match involves an amateur who's never made the TV show before, bowling for $100,000. It's Brett Wolfe guy. What does he have to look forward to in that title match? And what does he need to do to win?
Well, first of all, he needs to stay focused on what he did all week long. He's got to put the 100,000 out of his mind and think of, hey, I just got to get up there and make 10 good shots like I've done all week long. And if I do that, I'm a winner.
Got to make good shots.
Yeah, Ricky Ward, I agree. Got to make good shots. You know, one thing about Ricky, talking to him last night, he said, you know, it's feel for him. He's one of these feel bowlers. He told me he doesn't have to have the right ball or stand in the right place to be successful. He just has to feel it. Kind of a different approach.
Well, and Pete, we had talked about the fact that Ricky Ward's finger holes are so sharp, it's like you just take the ball right off of the drill press. You, on the other hand, actually use a bowling glove or something like a golf glove that covers your fingers.
And the only reason I wear the golf glove is for protection of my fingers, because I use vice grips in my balls, and when I bowl a lot, my fingers cut in the sides and in the creases. So when I put the glove on, it just absolutely for protection only.
And we saw Dennis's parents, Dennis Sr. and Clara, talking to Clara, and she said, you know, ever since the age of 12, Dennis Horan, that's all he thought about is bowling. And he was telling us earlier today that this is one trophy that he wants. He said, the money is great, don't get me wrong, but I want the trophy.
Here's a key shot right here. Just went Brooklyn on the left lane. Has been struggling on this lane.
Get up.
Well, he's made the adjustment. He was talking to himself after that bad release in the last frame. Talked to himself, and it pays off. And Dennis Horan now just trails by 5. Pete, thanks for spending some time with us. Best of luck. Congratulations on the ABC Hall of Fame.
Thanks, Randy.
We'll be back with more bowling from Reno. Brett Wolfe, the amateur, the only amateur to make it to the finals, showing absolutely no nerves. We're watching him walk around, and he's just standing over here just watching the match like everybody else.
We got a good crowd. We got a real good match right now.
Yeah.
Stays right with him.
Just keep it close.
Talk that talk, Ricky.
Both players with 3 frames left, and they know the score. Ricky knows if he can strike out, there's nothing Dennis Horan can do, but they got it. It's tit for tat right now. Both of them on a double.
Well, Ricky Ward strikes out. He can shoot 257. Dennis Horan, best he can do is 252.
That's tight.
This is Bulldog time.
Oh! Again, he leaves the 7. That's the 3rd time in this match that he's done that.
Well, you heard what he just said. He said that's a good shot, though. And, you know, Brian, our jobs are difficult. I mean, all we can do is make good shots and hit our target. We can't control pin carry.
We see the 4 wrap around the 7, as we've seen many, many times.
Full fingertip grip.
Oh, repeat.
Repeat of last week.
That was a little better than last week.
Where he won in Medford, Oregon, of course, picking up the $40,000 first prize. Now it's up to Dennis Horan Jr. Let's take a look at it, though. This was close.
Oh, this wasn't even close. Last week was close. Oh, he got way more of the 7-pin this time.
Now, that was the big talk on PBA.com, as a matter of fact. That ball was in the gutter when it came out last week.
Dennis now can take the lead with the strike here in the 8th frame.
This is good lane.
It did help.
What a great shot. Again, Brian, to re-emphasize that left lane. A little tricky for Dennis.
This is it. Well, 9th frame. It doesn't matter if it's he threw a book on 1 shot, but I think that was a bad shot. I think he was fighting with his game a little bit. The last time, it just perfect execution. Wants to get a strike here, and nothing Ricky can do if Dennis gets this strike will shut him out.
That's the story. Up by 6, working on a 4-bagger.
If he doesn't strike, Ricky can strike out.
And it holds again. The ball has ears.
In a row, he said hold?
I think so. But hey, maybe the reason why he was throwing that plastic ball in warm-ups.
To create hold.
Create hold.
Absolutely.
First time I saw that, I made the show in Indianapolis. Doug Kent comes out with a plastic ball and throws it up the middle of the lane for about 15 minutes. He ran through the field.
So there was some strategy with the plastic ball, as you mentioned earlier.
Huge shot for Dennis right there.
Well, now the pressure swings over to Ricky Ward. $100,000 first-place prize check on the line. The winner of this advances to the finals against Brett Wolfe, who's waiting in the wings.
Foundation frame. Ricky's still right in this match.
Now what?
You see the 3-9. You know, we've seen the players come in light on that lane more than once.
You know, in talking to Dennis and Ricky both, they said there's been a lot of 3-9s this week that have been left.
Yeah.
It's been a very common occurrence.
Right now, Ricky knows he has to fill. He has to make this spare and strike out in the 10th frame to make Dennis Horan fill. Ooh, he just barely made that.
That's two. That's two.
All right.
Breathe a sigh of relief.
Ricky
Now,
Ward, if he strikes out, will shoot 224. Dennis Horan is on a 231 pace. But he must strike on the next 2 balls to put some pressure on Dennis.
But it comes down to this ball, though.
This is it. He's got to get this one. Ron, when you're in this position, you assume you're going to make this.
The assumption is correct.
That was a good shot.
You know, when you talk to Ricky and Dennis both, especially Ricky last night, you know, we said, what if it comes down to the 10th frame? He goes, I'm not thinking about TV. I'm not thinking about anything. All I'm thinking about is I have made the shot 100 times before.
Yeah. And you'll see there was no emotion from that shot.
Nope.
That wasn't the one that counted. This is where we'll see the emotion. Boy, that was a good shot.
Nothing he can do.
Don't give it to him. Make him show up.
That's right. That's Bulldog right there.
You got it.
Boy,
Make
those
him
were good
show up.
shots. All right, strike here. We'll give him 224. And as we said, Dennis Horan will have to get up and fill the 10th frame.
You know, how many times we've seen it? We've seen it Pete Weber back in November saying, okay, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to put the pressure on you. I mean, the promo's been run 100 times. Says, you know, you're not going to win your first tournament with me. I'm going to strike. Pressure goes on you. The machine stuck on the reset.
You know, there are a lot of guys that have a reputation for being able to strike out in the 10th frame. You mentioned Pete Weber. Ricky Ward's one of those guys. He's, you know, that's why we call him the Bulldog. He's really good at getting the job done when he has to.
Well, you know, talking to people around him, they said he's got amazing closing speed. He just comes on you real strong in the 9th and 10th frame and tries to close things out immediately. What does this do now, this little break in the action for everybody's psyche?
Well, for Ricky, I think it's a good thing. He's making Dennis sit there a little bit longer, icing him a little bit.
It's like calling a timeout before the field goal, right?
Yeah.
For 3 in a row. What a closing sequence for Ricky Ward. He spares in the 8th and 9th, and he throws 3 in the 10th, Brian.
3 pretty ones. 3 perfect strikes.
Most solid balls he threw all afternoon. So
Yeah.
now he needs a mark to win.
And
Easier said than done. Remember what happened to Mohegan's Sun with Chris Barnes in the 10th frame? It can happen.
You never know. But he has struck on 3 out of 4 balls on this right lane.
And he's working on 5 in a row. Not over yet.
All right. Make a spare. God, those shots.
Yeah, he knew it right when he let go. Please don't split, please.
Well, he's had problems with that release. It seems like the ball leaving his hand not as consistently as he likes it. We've seen it throughout today. In both matches, not only this one, but the first one. He needs basically 5 mark and 5 pins.
And this spare by no means a gimme.
Yes!
And he barely makes it.
Oh, mercy. And Ricky can only muster a little smile, so Dennis Horan Jr. needs 5 pins, and he will be in the championship match against our amateur, Brett Wolfe.
He said, oh, that was close.
I can't even imagine what that feels like.
All right, you heard him say this one's going right down the middle. 5 pins. Take note, there is a chance of leaving 4 if you throw the hook ball, but right down the middle, no way.
Yes!
There we go.
He knew it the second he threw it. Dennis Horan Jr. has advanced to the finals. He is guaranteed at least $50,000. Randy, you've got our man that's going to be in the championship.
Dennis got by Ricky Ward, but it looks like you may be struggling just a little bit with your game.
Yeah, I don't know what it is today. The lanes are just a touch different for me, and I'm just not letting it go as clean as I have been in the last couple days. But I got to the title match. That was my goal, and I'm going to win this tournament.
Back to you, Ron.
All right, Dennis Horan says he wants the trophy on his mantle. He is 1 match away. We'll be back with the title match, Dennis Horan Jr. and our amateur from right here in Reno, Brett Wolfe. 3 Masters championships, defeating Mike Edwards 211-207. The Indianapolis native would take home over $40,000 that day. The second ABC Masters crown came in 1995, right here at the National Bowling Stadium in Reno. Seated second, Albee would beat Ryan Schaefer on his way to defeating Mark Williams 200-187 in the title match. Mike Albee would show he really liked it in Reno by winning his third ABC Masters Championship right here again in 1998. Top seeded in the tournament, Albee defeated Parker Bone III in the title match and would incredibly become the only three-time ABC Masters champion.
The three victories really stands out the most.
Probably 89 in Wichita. It's a tournament I never thought I'd ever win, and to get that first one, I mean, I remember driving home with that trophy sitting in the seat next to me, and it's like a dream. I couldn't believe it was there.
Okay, give us your prediction on the title match.
Well, obviously Dennis bowled a good game there to win, but Brett's pretty loose, and I won my first title in Vegas in '79. There's something to be said about being naive about the pressure, and you know, Brett's going to be tough to beat.
Thanks, Mike. Ron, back to you.
Now, thanks, Randy. Dennis Horan Jr., thanks to the 5 in a row, beginning in the 5th frame through the 9th frame, he is able to post the 230, defeating Ricky Ward by 6 pins. Ricky checking in with 224. Let's take a look at our Alka-Seltzer stepladder brackets. And right now, Dennis Horan Jr., he advances again by 6 pins. He'll be in the finals. It's time now for our 10-frame segment, which is a chance to get to know one of our PBA Tour members. This week, it's 893 Masters champion Norm Duke.
Childhood days in East Texas. My father and mother bought a bowling center in Mount Pleasant, Texas. So, you know, I was a bowling center brat there. But I liked baseball as a kid. I just loved it, but, you know, I was 3 foot and stayed. So, at one point, I was as good as everybody else because we were all the same height. And then the next thing, voices were changing all around me. Mine wasn't, and I was outclassed pretty quick. You know, I'm the CNBC computer, check the, the stocks and companies. I can really get into that investing stuff. But on the road, mostly, I like to go back to my room. And I like to get away from the rat race and the hustle and bustle of the bowling life and just relax. You know, I'm the kind of guy I cannot ever remember a good joke and a good movie. I know that the firm sticks out in my mind. I like that one. I like Wall Street. Michael Douglas is just cool, And because I'm a ball bag. If you expose me to those sad ones, boy, you're going to have to put up with some tears. My wife and I, we watched, and still do, Friends and Seinfeld just about every night. Cosmo was the man. You know, it wouldn't even be Seinfeld without Cosmo. I really enjoy golf. I have a 5-year-old son. I take him golfing. And we really enjoy it. So I don't see a time in the future where we slack off on the golf. Cowboys. I lived in Dallas-Fort Worth, and if you're a Texan, you're a cowboy. That's the way that is. One of my favorite people in the whole world is my son. He's just a blast. So we have a great time. You know, we fight in the living room, or Mom rings the bell, and we go and we have these little spar fights. And, it's just awesome. Well, I've always had a passion for the real estate business, and I see myself having properties that I lease to single family. I have to bowl. It's what pays the bills. It's what keeps my family clothed. So I will be bowling until it's not necessary. And at that point, I may bowl throughout senior tour and all that kind of stuff. I may go forever. Who knows?
5 days of bowling have come down to this. For the Frank K. Baker Trophy and the $100,000 first prize, will it be the veteran Dennis Horan Jr. or will it be our amateur Brett Wolfe? The championship match is next. Ricky Ward. So how important is it for him to get those first 2 shots out of the way? I mean, come on. I mean, the guy is, the heart rate is probably like big time.
He's breathing now. You know, during the warm-ups, we have a camera that roves around, and he wanted to get some experience with that. It's a tremendous advantage having bowled on TV as many times Dennis has when you're in this situation.
Dennis looking for his 5th career title. That takes a little bit of pressure up. Now, the left lane has been probably his Achilles heel so far today.
But you know what? I don't think it has as much to do with the lane conditions as it does him just making bad shots on that lane.
Yeah, I agree. Those shots, that Brooks one, that was just a bad shot. That wasn't the lane. But it still hangs in your head. You know, you're on the left lane. All right, I made a bad shot. It went, you know.
Right.
You're not exactly sure what the lane's doing until you're making good, crisp shots.
First shot in the 10th, only leaves a 2-4. I mean, that could have been some ugly stuff.
He has experience winning majors.
Ooh. All right, nice little break. Yeah, Dennis has got a lot of experience winning big money tournaments.
Yes,
he said he focuses more on. He says, you know, it's not, he goes, I try to approach it like it's just another tournament. I know it isn't, but I try to approach it like that. But he does focus a little bit more on these big ones. Will that experience pay off? We'll have to find out.
Could be routine 6-pin for Dennis.
And here's the amateur Brett Wolfe, just 25 years old. Was part of the club bowling team at Arizona State. Graduated with honors with a degree in finance. And if he wins $100,000.
So we see some of the guys that Brett beat. Brian Smith, who's had a real good year. Ricky Ward.
And just stay rook.
Push! Come on! Yes! That pin got hit so hard it didn't know what to do. It's like unconscious. You got to watch this guy's form in his game. He's got a real solid game. In fact, the first time I ever watched him throwing bowling ball was last night. As you can see, I got to do it the opposite for left. There's the 4-pin, takes the 7-pin out. And watch this reaction. But he's got a great game. I want you to watch his hand roll up the back of the bowling ball. And what that does is it controls the back end part of the lane. If you rotate around the side of the ball, it creates more of a transitional move or more hook in the back end.
He's got a lot of revs, too.
He's got a real nice game.
And the 7 has ears again.
The hometown crowd is going nuts.
Well, the most he's ever won bowling, $6 grand. That was at a high roller event in '97.
He won $6 grand 2 days ago here.
That's right. Good point.
Now watch the action. The headpin's going to go to the sidewall. His hand's underneath it. Look at that direct line. And here it comes.
And now Dennis Horan struck in the first, spared in the second. And struck in the third.
You know, and I think the reason why Brett Wolfe chose to finish on the right lane is because Dennis Horan is locked in on the right lane.
Exactly. Good strategy. Make him finish on his bad lane.
Well, he's made match play. This man hasn't. This man has made match play Masters 10 years in a row. His highest finish was 7th. This is important for this man. Not much action on the pins.
Left lane.
And it looks like early on some pretty good strategy from young Brett Wolfe.
Now, you heard him say, let go, let go. That means he's snatching on the ball. He's doing something wrong with the start. It doesn't feel good. He's not getting out of the ball clean. And
how much of it is starting to enter into his mind consciously about the fact that he's struggling a little bit on the left lane?
Yeah.
And again, is it because lane conditions, or is it because of just him mentally? You know, mentally not making the good shots, physically not letting go of it.
He knows.
Cleans it up rather well. Well, as a living tribute to the most prolific champion in PBA history, members of the bowling community have created the Earl Anthony Memorial Scholarship Fund. The fund will provide annual scholarship grants to youth bowlers based on need, academic performance, and community involvement. Now, to contribute to the fund, send your tax-deductible contribution to the Earl Anthony Memorial Scholarship Fund. Here's the address, 5301 South 76th Street, Greendale, Wisconsin, 53129. Very well-worthy cause. Well, Brett Wolfe showing absolutely no pressure. And, you know, we were spending some time with him last night. You know, we talked about he has a bad knee. He's got a brace on one of his knees. But this man had such a grasp of what he was going to. And you can see him juggling that little ball in the left hand all the time.
That's a rosin bag, but as you see his reaction to that last shot he threw, taking advantage of Dennis Horan not doubling, and he's just taking it right to Dennis. I mean, he's just like, hey, let's go. Put him up.
Well, Bill and Becky, his mom and dad in Scottsdale, called his parents, said they're going nuts, they're happy, they're proud, they're nervous, all the above. And he does strike again. 4 in a row for young Brett Wolfe.
You know, one of the great things about this tournament is the amateurs competing against the pros in a format which allows them, it's all equal. A 3-game match, it's anybody's game. and he did real good this week to get where he's at.
Well, this guy throws it nothing like any amateur. This guy throws it like the pros out here today. The only difference is he's got a great job working at home, but this guy could compete out on the PBA Tour.
Dennis Horan not able to answer it. Now he is facing a difficult situation. Down by 30 pins here in the 5th.
That was not a good time to do that.
Yeah, Brian, it just to me looks like Dennis is really starting to fight his physical game. That's entering into his mental game, you know, what he's thinking, the thoughts going on in his head. And now it looks like he's starting to press a little bit.
Yeah. Now's not the time to be working on your game. Ooh, almost bounced it out.
Tonight at 7:30 Eastern, Joan hosts Chris Berman and analyst Tom Jackson as they break down all the 8 days of NFL playoff action. NFL Primetime, presented by Miller Lite, the most comprehensive NFL highlight show on television. And for more information, log on to ESPN.com. And they'll update you on that Steelers game today.
Boomer and TJ, I just love watching those guys on NFL Primetime.
They break it down like nobody else. And Dennis Horan finds himself down by 30.
Got himself a little hole here. Hurt him again, Randy. Not making good shots.
He's just grabbing every other shot. He's not making good shots.
You do not want to strike like that.
Now the amateur Brett Wolfe has put himself into a wonderful position. He leads by 34. $100,000 is on the line for the young man.
Come on. Yes. Yes.
My man, NBA League Pass on DirecTV. Ow! I feel good. It's super bad.
Boys dug deep into the bank account this week,
Yes,
son.
they did. Largest purse in the history of the ABC Masters.
Only about $350,000 or $60,000.
That's a chunk of change.
Here's a guy that's looking to take home some big cake.
Yeah, baby. Yes.
Wow. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's feeling it. Would you agree, Brian?
I think we want him to keep his day job, actually. This guy's good.
Yeah,
this guy
Brett,
is good.
Brett, don't come out on tour anytime soon, okay, pal?
He said if he wins, he just might show up in Vegas. Not quite convinced he should do this full time. He said this is his house. It's easy winning here on these lanes. He said his office is 60 feet long by 5 feet wide, and this is his house.
Interesting note, this being the ABC Masters, he can accept the first place prize fund. If this was a PBA event, he would have to get, he'd have to turn pro to become a PBA member.
Wow.
Smoking.
That's a well-poised man right there.
He's got a great, solid game. He's making great shots. He's got a real good ball reaction and a good look.
6 straight in the reaction.
That's the eyes of a man with a lot of confidence.
And you know, right now, if Dennis Horan were to strike out, the best he can shoot is 236, and Brett Wolfe, the bowler that he has, knows that all he has to do is fill the last 3 frames to win. If Dennis strikes out.
And he's not going to do it.
It didn't really matter much anyway.
Well, it sounds like he's throwing in the towel.
He's throwing it in?
Well,
That's not, you know, I don't never give up, Randy.
Yeah, I think maybe a little too early for that.
Too early.
I think that's just residue of just being frustrated with how his game kind of deteriorated towards the end there physically.
You can see the score. The lead is 54 pins now for Brett Wolfe.
You know, and you can hear Terry, Dennis's wife at home right now saying, you know what, Dennis, I know you're not real happy about finishing second if you lose, but, you know, 50,000 is really good.
She's still a very happy girl.
Oh!
It just hasn't come together.
That.
And I have to ask why. I mean, it's you guys have mentioned about the release from his hands.
Watch how fast this is. That is the fastest 6-8-10 I have ever seen in my life.
Well, you know, Ron, a lot of people ask why you bowl good and why you bowl. Nobody knows what's going on in your mind. Nobody knows. You know, sometimes it's physical, but, you know, only Dennis really could tell us what's going on in your mind. He might not even fess up.
Hey, you know, I think that's a really good point, Brian. You see the ball going all over the lane. Well, is it the equipment? Is it the lane conditions changing? Is it the guy not making the right adjustments? Or is it just physically he can't get it off his hand? Hey, that's all he wants, man. 9 spare the rest of the game, and he's $100,000 richer.
After 6 in a row.
And my new best friend.
Knuckleball there. That was nice.
Knuckleball.
Little Hoyt Wilhelm there for Brett Wolfe.
Yeah, I tell you what.
He has such great slow steps to start out, too.
Not many guys can come out against some of the best players in the world and use a urethane ball and beat us. And that's what this guy's done. But it's this format, which a lot of amateurs love, because, like I say, in a 3-game match, it's anybody's game.
And he's on his way to $100,000. Brett Wolfe, originally from Scottsdale and Phoenix area. And he is the winner. The 2002 ABC Masters, an unbelievable story. And to quote the great philosopher Carl Spangler, it's a Cinderella story.
Cinderella story, ex-Kohler salesman, now ABC Master champ.
Hope you're listening.
You know what? Listen, though.
He's talking to his dad.
I'm sorry.
He said, Papa, hope you're listening.
Here's the deal, though. You know, the reason why he's using a urethane ball is because he's got so much power and so many revs that if he was throwing a reactive ball, he wouldn't be able to play the line he's playing.
Well, he's plus 500 on his revs, and he's plus 100,000 in his bank account.
And not too many guys can get a urethane ball to hit like that, Brian. I'd have to throw an 18-pound urethane ball to get to hit like that.
And Dennis Horan Jr. will finish things up here in the 10th, but the $100,000 first prize goes to 25-year-old Brett Wolfe.